In fact, this regime is worse than the colonial government.
Worse than the colonial government?
Yes, indeed. It is worse than the colonial government. Because even in 1961, when they were mitigating on measures against the floods and rain, the colonial government did better than what this regime has done. Yeah. I've always admired him, despite some other issues that arise out of his personal character. But I think he's joining the school of arrogant individuals, which Kenya Kwanza has demonstrated to us. Because to tell us, if you don't want to pay tax, don't use your vehicle. He wants me to walk from here to Kitale. And at times, if you want to know that the president is lying, because I know him, I've known him for close to 30 years or more. Look at his eyes when he's talking. You will see the eyes, he will be blinking the eyes, and the movement of the mouth and the tongue. I always know he's now started lying to us.
What a privilege, what an honor to have you on Business Glide, your go-to point on matters public policy analysis, business and economics at large, hosted by yours truly, Richard Mwenjo. We are so glad to have you on board. Now today we are advancing our conversation on the hits and misses in the Finance Bill of 2024, and we want to unpack for you some of the highlights therein and what they mean to you as a taxpayer and as an active citizen at large. And with me to bring that conversation home is none other than former minister, the first of his name, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, also today bringing this edition straight from his tranquil and serene home here in Karen. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you so much. I think tranquil and serene may be closer than palatial.
Than palatial.
Yeah.
But it is. Now straight to the day's conversation and advancing the conversation about the Finance Bill of 2024. How about we begin from the political angle of it? And a section of governance experts like you and also some tax experts have come forth and say it is the unga, or I should say the bread revolution, that will bring President Ruto down. This comes after the proposal to have 16% raise, 16% VAT on bread and other essentials. We are seeing new taxes being introduced to them. Do you think there's an iota of truth in that statement that maybe the unga revolution can bring William Ruto down?
Well, I'm almost finding it that it could be just a gimmick. It might eventually drop the unga thing. Because in Kenya, yes, many of us take bread in the morning, but there are other alternative food that we take in the morning. And therefore, bread, possibly they are using it to raise the anger. And when they remove it, they feel they have sort of brought down the outrage from the public. The way I see the main target is motor vehicle users and those people who have some rental income. I think that's where they want to raid. And of course, you know, in this city, the people who own houses and those who rent and those who rent out are known. So it's targeting that particular segment of the people. And also motor vehicle users, some people who don't have vehicles, they think they are safe. If there is some circulation, car circulation fees, even the matatu industry is going to be visited. And when they get there, your fare, if it was 50 shillings, it will go up to 70 shillings to travel the same distance that you are using 50 shillings the other day.
The ripple effect will cut across.
Yeah, so it is dealing with the hustlers, the ones at the bottom. That is where he wants to visit. So the language is a hustler himself, but he has hustled us out of our comfort. And that is where I feel this hustler narrative was just a gimmick to win the election.
Very well.
I don't think he has hustlers at heart.
And it begs the question, upon his assumption of office, he promised to, right after, bring down what he then termed as predatory and oppressive taxes of the former regime led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Would you say that he was never sincere in that case of bringing down the taxes in his first 100 days in office?
You know, either he did not know, and he did not know what government means. Because there are certain critical things that you do once you're in government. And having been in government for 10 years, I suspect he knew that it was not possible, but he has conveniently been lying to the public for the time he's been in politics all along, to the extent that he has believed in his own lies, and he has realized that the public can be lied to, and then you bring another story with a lot of emphasis the following day, and they believe this could now be a true story. Otherwise, I would say he qualifies to move into the category of people called the habitual liars, who
Habitual
lie
liars.
until they believe. It becomes the habit. You lie knowing that you are lying, but you don't care. And at times, if you want to know that the president is lying, because I know him, I've known him for close to 30 years or more. Look at his eyes when he's talking. You will see the eyes, will be blinking the eyes, and the movement of the mouth and the tongue. I always know he's now started lying to us.
They are never in sync.
Oh, they are never in sync. You'll see him not believing in his story because he's lying. When he said, you know, remember Richard, when he told the people in Bomet that the documents about certain agreements, G to G, were in parliament, I could see his eyes, but then when I reflected as a former member of parliament, I knew parliament is not a store. Anything that gets into parliament, you table. Even when you bring the, let's say, whether this finance bill, they will table it in the first reading, then refer to the committee, later on bring it now for discussion at the plenary, move all the way to committee stage, then eventually, if it goes through with amendments or without, it's ascended by the president. So anything that is in parliament is supposed to be tabled. And I don't remember any time G to G was tabled in parliament. And even after that, Kenyans forgot. But the president was lying to us from Bomet. So, you know, let's accept that one of the legacies is that you don't have to be a good person to be president. You can be a liar, and people will still accept you. Because I know many of them actually will vote for him, but they will know that he has been lying to them for the last 5 years.
Very well.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. And if you think that you'll fight Ruto on the issues of corruption or lies, you know, you are misplaced. Yeah.
Actually, upon inquiry on whether the proposed motor vehicle circulation tax is an income tax or wealth tax, we saw National Assembly Finance Committee chairperson, that is Kuria Kimani, MP for Molo, come forward and said, we are not forcing anyone to pay the tax. If you don't want, you might as well not use your car. So this take it or leave it tone from the government when it comes to taxation. Do you welcome it?
Well, then why don't you tell us about housing? Yeah, if you know, when something is a tax, now I bought the car to use. And Richard, remember, the former minister, Amos Kimunya, brought an amendment to parliament that you do not have to have road license. That road license fees was now compounded into the cost of fuel. So that for every 1 liter you consume, there are certain levies.
Yeah.
To the extent that, as you know, about 52 to 54% of the fuel that we consume at the petrol station, that percentage goes to taxes, including the road maintenance levy
and
and
others.
other levies,
Sure.
which includes this issue of car circulation. They should have put in the fuel so that when I use my car, I pay. When I'm not using it, I don't have to pay. But now you come at the beginning of the year that this vehicle of yours is worth so much through the insurance assessment. Now you pay 100,000 or you pay 50,000. Now, if I'm not using the vehicle, I would have paid in advance 50,000 for a vehicle that may not be doing so much. I thought they could have done for commercial vehicles, but not for private vehicles.
Talking of which, when it comes to the motor vehicles circulation tax, don't you think it will bring further case, especially in the insurance sector, whereby we are going to see more undervaluation, under insurance, just so people can beat around that tax?
Well, there are two mistakes there. One is what you've just said, that people will undervalue their vehicles, and therefore, when it reaches issues of mitigation, should you lose the vehicle, because as you know, the principle of insurance is that it must restore you to the state you were before the accident.
Indemnity.
Indemnity. So if that indemnity is lost, therefore people are going to get into a lot of losses. The second issue is that Kenyans, about 80% of them or more, go for third-party insurance. Therefore, you not catch them up because you don't have to value a car to get third-party insurance. It's only about 15 to 20% who go for comprehensive coverage. This therefore means you will also be collecting little income from that small bracket of people who decide to have comprehensive insurance for their vehicles. So it is murky. And you know, the more you increase ways of collecting taxes, the more you increase the gravy train for corruption. Because I can decide uh, I don't pay that, or and uh, I don't even insure the vehicle. I would rather keep 50,000 inside the car throughout the year in notes of 200 shillings, so that when I meet a policeman, I give him and I pass. Because you see, at the end of the day, Kenyans are very innovative in ways of trying to avoid
Tax
some
evasion.
of these taxes, especially when they consider them to be punitive.
When you look at some of the proposals in the Finance Bill of 2024, now case in point, motor vehicle circulation tax, could we be speaking into a possible front of double taxation?
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. It is double taxation, and it is also ill-informed, because the moment you raise taxes, people avoid paying taxes. And tax avoidance is not a crime. It is tax evasion that is a crime. So people will look for many ways of avoiding taxes, and therefore the revenue they will be collecting will even go down. That is something that they should learn from the countries like Europe, if they have to compare themselves. The Prime Minister of UK the other day reduced taxes in various measures so as to encourage growth. Because if you grow, let's say today, you are able to plant maize in 10 acres, then you are assisted to feel relief, you increase to 20 acres. So the volume you have produced is higher, and therefore 50% of 20 is not the same as 60% of 10, is higher, because 50% of 20 is 10, and 60% of 10 is 6. And therefore, you will be dealing with a bigger volume, and therefore your way of possible collectible income will go up, or
Very well.
collectible revenue. Yeah.
Shifting gears, I want to understand what you make of the sentiments of Kuria Kimani, Finance Committee Chairperson in the National Assembly, in which has come forth and said we cannot continue having 20% of Kenyans pay for the taxes of the other 80 who are missing in the picture. And to him, he believes we need to widen the tax base, widen the tax net so that it's all inclusive instead of only 20% of Kenyans paying for the rest in the country. Do you welcome that proposal?
But Kenyans have not refused to pay taxes. We've been paying, because there are so many ways of paying taxes, and every Kenyan pays taxes. It depends on how much. Today, if you left here and you went to some place to buy an item, there is already VAT. You are paying taxes. Now, have they registered all these entities, and have they allowed them to feel there is no punishment by paying taxes? The issue is they themselves have not. And you saw Kuria Kimani is one young man. I've always admired him, despite some other issues that arise out of his personal character. But I think he's joining the school of arrogant individuals, which Kenya Kwanza has demonstrated to us. Because to tell us, if you don't want to pay tax, don't use your vehicle. He wants me to walk from here to Kitale. You know, I really, even to walk from here to town is impossible for me. A young man like you may be able to do it as a way of doing some exercise. That you expect me on the road from here to Nairobi town, 18 kilometers?
Because you're evading motor vehicle circulation tax.
Yeah. In fact, you will be shocked. You might find so many elders like me walking towards parliament. saying we are not going to pay this motor vehicle tax. I wish I could mobilize about 2,000 of former MPs. Yeah,
You do that?
I wish I could, but I don't want to cause a lot of uproar. Let's allow them for now, but their days are counted. Yeah.
And what do you make of this justification from the government side that all those who are expressing outrage with the finance bill of 2024, they are doing so because they are opposition sympathizers? Do you subscribe to that sort of argument?
When you take 80,000 from me, I don't need the opposition to tell me that you have lost money for no good reason. If you take money that if I sell my maize or even I sell my chicken, you want me to pay a chicken that I sell for, call it 1,000, you want 200 shillings. That chicken was not in your compound. You never allowed it to hatch in your compound. Why does the government want to take away money from chicken, money from cows, money from avocado, money from mangoes? So that even when they come to your compound and they see a mango tree that you use for purposes of the shade, they say, okay, you have to pay taxes. You know, this reminds us of those days in the Bible. And also the colonial days, that's what they were doing. Some old men could cross forests. If you are moving from here to Limuru, you have to cross the forest so that you are not held by what they were calling hair tax, where men were paying what they were calling kodi. In fact, this regime is worse than the colonial government.
Worse than the colonial government?
Yes, indeed. It is worse than the colonial government. Because even in 1961, when they were mitigating on measures against the floods and rain, the colonial government did better than what this regime has done. Yeah.
The other day, a fortnight ago, I was having a conversation with lawyer Ndegwa Njiru, and he made this clarion call that there is need for the church to regain its rightful seat in the society, especially when their voice is needed to call out on issues such as the finance bill of 2024, the oppression or predatory antics therein in the bill. Are you confident that maybe the church of today is now waking up to that call of regaining its position in speaking for the masses and the interest of the taxpayers at such times?
You know, the traditional church, basically the Catholic, the SEK, the AIC, and the traditional church that you know, has been overtaken by a huge block of churches that now was akin to these prayers of Benny Hill. Was he called Benny Hill?
Benny Hill.
Yeah, Benny Hill. And these are the people who prayed for this government to win. And therefore they're ashamed on behalf of the regime. Actually, they are ashamed on behalf of the regime that we prayed for you, we voted for you, and you have let us down. So the same church does not seem to have full moral authority to fight the issues perpetrated by this regime. I feel they are ashamed and they are keeping quiet because they don't know what to say. They voted for him, they voted for them, and now they have been let down. Yeah.
Very lastly, I mean, we cannot run away from the fact that the Finance Bill of 2024 also has its fair share of goodies therein for the masses. But from a general perspective, do you feel that the bill is a people-centered bill?
No, no, it is just a tax collection bill that has no meaning at all. Because you see, what you need to do is, what are the incentives? What is the stimulus you are giving to a farmer like me? What is it, you know, because you see, like last year or this year, you know, last year, they gave us subsidized fertilizer. At least much of it was not as bad as this year. But then, at the end of the year, they did not even open, even the depot at National Cereals and Produce Board, Mossbridge, was not taking maize in the quantities they had said. So eventually, they clocked the process. Because you see, in farming, it's supposed to be from seed to seed. Seed to seed in the sense that you go through the agronomy of the plant all the way until you harvest. Upon harvesting, you take it as a seed to the next level without loss. Because in Kenya, post-harvest losses for maize is between 25 to 30% or even higher. But what National Cereals and Produce Board was mitigating against was to ensure they store the maize in better conditions so that at the end of the day, you are able to reduce post-harvest losses. But they never did that, which means they never cared really for the farmers. And they stopped us from exporting to Uganda because at that time, the maize in Uganda was not yet ready. They stopped us from exporting to Uganda. It was almost illegal to be seen with a bag of maize crossing over to Uganda.
And very finally, as a governance expert and also someone who's been around for quite a while, what danger lies ahead in the fullness of time? Should we see this finance bill of 2024 and successive finance bills go heavy on taxation other than reliefs for the taxpayer? What is the danger in that in the fullness of time?
It will reach a stage where you no longer have anything to tax. Because you tax companies, those who are not Kenyan-based, or owned by Kenyans, they relocate some of their systems. Because like some of the companies producing even certain commodities, they have relocated to Tanzania because the environment there is better. Now they're using Kenya as just a distribution hub for purposes of marketing their produce. Why? It's because of the levy on the house levy. You know, when you tax an employee and the employer, effectively what you are doing is that you are increasing the cost of doing that.
Cost of production.
And that's why East Africa Protocol was supposed to assist us so that we do business almost at par. So when we are doing it as Kenya, we'll be affected by Uganda, we'll be affected by Tanzania and other countries within the East Africa community. So those will relocate. Those who will not survive here will collapse. So if they have been paying 1 million shillings per month or per year, that 1 million will not be there because they have collapsed. They have been auctioned. If you are to check in the papers today, there are more adverts or people being auctioned. Why? Because of pending bills that government never paid, because of this taxation, people cannot meet their productivity requirements, and they close business. Companies don't collapse because of anything else. They collapse because the dynamics are not right.
The dynamics have pushed them to the wall.
Yes.
Well, there you have it, that point by former Minister Kipruto Arap Kirwa takes us to the wrap of this conversation today. We've been unpacking some of the hits and misses enshrined in the Finance Bill 2024 and what that means for you as a taxpayer and as an active citizen at large. It is always a privilege to bring forth such editions for you to consume and for you, Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Such an honor to do this from your home.
Yes.
We say asante sana to the entire team that has welcomed us here.
Yes.
And we thank you for the good meal that we've had.
Asante. And there's still more.
There's still more.
There's still more to come.
Until we meet next on Business Glide, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.